Howdy, I am going to share with you my top 3 tips for buying music gear online without trying it in person first. This is coming from someone who has bought many instruments from Facebook Marketplace, ordering them from my local music store's website, and I would say a couple of reverb purchases as well. So before I dive in, I would just ask that you please like this video if you enjoy this type of content and comment below with any questions or just anything you want to say, and I'll respond to your comment. And if you like this type of content, I would also encourage you to subscribe to my channel. It definitely helps me grow, and I would appreciate it very much if you would like to see more of this stuff in the future. Thank you so much, and let's get into the content. So, number 1 tip, in no particular order by the way, that I would say is you have to set your expectations low when you're buying music gear online without ever being able to try it out first. That's something that I know at least I've had a problem with in the past. I was uncomfortable with ordering stuff that I wasn't sure if I was going to find it comfortable, like physically in my hands, or if I wouldn't like how it looked. And I've had experiences on that side of the coin for sure. So set your expectations low, and you're likely going to experience some problems, such as a lack of descriptive information for the instrument. This is particularly true on secondhand ad websites like Facebook Marketplace. Some people don't fill out a whole lot of information about the instrument, so you can't learn its history. You don't know if it has any hardware issues, if it's got, playability concerns, if there are parts missing. And this also goes hand in hand with a lack of good photographs of the instrument itself. So oftentimes you'll come across ads on Reverb or Facebook Marketplace where there's not great photos, so you can't see fine details of the instrument. You can't see a great overall picture of what the instrument will look like when it's in person. And that's something you have to realize is a risk in buying online. It's potentially going to be something that you don't like as much as you see in the pictures. And you'll see I bought a Jackson online that didn't quite fit the image that I saw on my local music store's website. They enhanced the photos, so I had a completely different perception of what it should look like when it shipped. And I was a little bit disappointed when it came in. So just keep that as a reminder. You have to set your expectations low when you're buying online. And if you're not willing to shell out some cash for that reason, then that might be a good enough reason for you not to do this. All right, tip number 2. I think this is becoming more common with gear review, like YouTube influencers or YouTube content creators who review gear. It's very helpful in a way, because very often the gear you want to buy has a video about it on YouTube, and there's also online reviews if that's not necessarily like a popular item. Some things you just might not have the option of getting these in-depth reviews and getting a proper look from someone who owns the gear or who has it in their hands. Also, you want to keep in mind that I would highly recommend not to take these people's word for it, especially people who are getting paid to review gear. I would take everything. Oops. I would take everything you hear or see on YouTube or on reviews with a grain of salt. And that's just to say, people's perception, people's opinions are going to be different than yours. Even if you experience the same things, you're going to have different opinions on the same things once your gear is actually in your hands. So I would recommend that if anything that a creator or a reviewer comments in a negative light on the gear that you want to buy, if that's a problem that you don't want to face, I would suggest not buying that gear. On the same hand, if someone, I guess on the same, the opposite side of that coin, if someone also says something great about that instrument, I would recommend you to not let that be the only selling feature. So you've got to really combine the negatives and the positives, because every type of guitar or instrument or piece of studio gear, it's going to have parts of it that some people like less, some people like more, and just a combination of those things with the individual person's opinion, everyone's going to have different reasons why they like it or don't like it. So you've just got to decide if this feature is something you don't want to deal with, or if it's something that you really like. You've got to put these together and consider that there's a downside and an upside that you will face. And I just want to say this before I move on to the next tip too, is you're never really going to know if these features are right for you until you have the instrument. Oftentimes it's not a big risk, but sometimes if you're spending a lot of money on an instrument, for example, and you're unsure if you're going to like a certain feature that you've never tried before, like, I don't know, there's a certain type of fretboard on your guitar, or there's a certain gain knob that works a certain way on like an interface or something, for example. If you have no experience with it, sometimes it's either not worth the risk for other reasons, and sometimes it's worth the risk just because it's a piece of gear that you're so interested in. But there's so much nuance there. You can really decide what matters more to you. At the end of the day, if you don't try it, you're not losing out on much. And if you do spend the money and end up regretting it, you can still sell it, you can return it if that's a possibility for where you bought it. So I just don't want you to overthink this too much, because at the end of the day, this is all just musical gear that's not gonna, like, most of it's not gonna be in our collection forever. Some of it might be, but really it's just it's like an inanimate object, so it's not something that's going to make or break you. So just don't overthink that too much. All right, so the third tip I have, if you want to buy a specific piece of music gear online, you have your eyes on this gear and you think, yeah, this is going to be really cool. I really want to buy it. I would highly suggest that before you purchase anything, I would suggest that you look for competing products that are very similar to it. And I'll give you an example that I've done in the past. It was with a MIDI keyboard with a drum pad on it, and there were 2 or 3 different keyboards in the same price range. And I looked up reviews of one thinking that I was going to buy it, but then one of the content creators that I was watching the review of also compared it to a different one in the same price range. And that actually ended up changing my mind on the gear that I ended up buying, which is cool because sometimes we just are unaware of different features, or even just something as simple as a different color that's available, or a higher end model that might have more features, maybe even a lower end model that is just a little bit more affordable and it would just feel more comfortable for your budget. So I recommend that you look for competing products, not only from other brands, but I recommend you look for similar products by the same brand that you already want to purchase from. This is all assuming that you have something you want to buy already. You have a particular piece of gear you already have your eyes on. So yeah, and oftentimes you can find gear that you didn't even know. Sometimes you can even find better deals on secondhand gear, like on Reverb, Facebook Marketplace. Oftentimes it's cheaper than buying brand. Oh, well, I guess it. Of course, it's cheaper than buying brand new. But what I'm trying to say is that don't just look at one place. Go to Reverb, go to Facebook Marketplace, and use the tips I gave you just previously in this video, and you can save a lot of money. Oftentimes, the used quality stuff, it might have dings, it might have road wear or whatever. If you're okay with that, then that's great. It's a good deal, and I do recommend doing that if that's up your alley. And oftentimes, the used gear on Facebook Marketplace or Reverb is still in fantastic quality. So if you just want to save like a couple $100 or a few bucks here and there, like there's nothing wrong with buying secondhand. And I would just say that's a great way to save a little bit of money and still get the gear that you wanted. All right, so I hope you enjoyed these 3 tips on how to buy music gear online without ever trying it out first. If you liked this video, again, I just ask that you like this video, press the like button, comment down below with any questions you might have about the online purchase process. And if you want to see more content like this, please give me a subscribe, and that helps me grow quite a bit, as I love to share information with people who need it and to help where I can with my own personal experience. Thank you so much for watching, and take care.